Welcome to this month's episode of the PA Path. I'm Emma Sellers, Chief Recruitment and Engagement Officer at PAEA. This episode is brought to you by the University of St. Francis and its online Doctor of Medical Science degree, now enrolling for full-time and part-time students. I'm delighted to have Kathryn Reed as our guest. Kathryn Reed is a certified physician assistant and the founder and president of the National Society of Black Physician Assistants. She has practiced family medicine, internal medicine, and emergency medicine. She now holds a faculty appointment at the University of Pittsburgh's Department of Physician Assistant Studies, where she is the vice chair for equity, inclusion, and community engagement, and an assistant professor in the hybrid program. Kathryn, welcome to the podcast. We are just so privileged and honored to have Kathryn with us today to have a very interesting topic in a space that she's really been a champion for and taken the lead in virtual shadowing. So Kathryn, thanks so much for joining us today. Can't wait to just dive into this a little bit with you.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. Before we get started, I know your name is a household name for many folks who are listening, but can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, the work that your organization does, or tell us about your organization around the space in virtual shadowing?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name's Kathryn Reed. I'm a physician assistant by training. I've been a PA since 2017, which seems like yesterday, but is not. And I started out in clinical practice, working in primary care, working in a bit of OB-GYN, internal medicine, things like that. And then during that time frame, really began to envision a space where there could be a community of PAs, specifically Black PAs, who could network, where we could support pre-PA students and current PA students, and try to develop some of the connections and connection points that I felt like I was really looking for during the PA school process, the pre-PA program process, and then as a practicing PA. And that's really where the envisioning of the National Society of Black Physician Assistants started. And that was in 2020, 2019. We went live in 2020, I believe, with a website, which was great. And since that time, I've been the president and founder of the National Society of Black PAs. And now I work in academia full-time for the University of Pittsburgh, where I teach health policy, patient education and counseling, and health issues across the lifespan, courses that I'm really passionate about in our hybrid PA program.
Awesome. Two things. One, 5 years goes by really quick, and the impact that y'all have made is unreal. When you said those dates, I'm thinking, man, it seems like it's been around forever. It's done such powerful work. Thanks for telling us a little bit about you. Let's dig in a little bit more to what is virtual shadowing. We talk about it. We are starting to hear more folks question what it is. Can you tell us a little bit again about it? How is it similar? How is it different from the in-person shadowing experience?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think the main thing that is different between in-person shadowing and virtual shadowing is physically where you are as a person. And so for a pre-PA student or someone looking for that shadowing experience, if you're in person, you'd be going to a provider's office and experiencing their day with them. Virtual shadowing is different in that you are in a Zoom or Teams capacity, so a virtual space where you are listening to a provider from across the U.S. share what they do, how they got to where they are, and then providing some case examples or case studies to really engage with the pre-PA students or attendees that are in that session. That is how the NSBPA does it. There are other groups doing them in a little bit different ways, but those are the primary differences, is really where you are physically and how it is set up.
Yeah. We talk about all the time, too, that also I can just imagine the number of barriers that it's going to break down for folks, access, all sorts of things. And I'm sure we might get deeper into that later, too, but just really popped into my head. When we think about shadowing, of course, it comes at various stages of a student's career. But how can a pre-PA student or an advisor determine if the virtual shadowing opportunity is worthwhile? What's they looking for there?
That's a great question. And I think when we talk about barriers related to your last comment there, thinking about cost, if there's a cost associated with it, really being mindful about who is providing the virtual shadowing. Do they have a history of doing this well? Have you seen that they have high quality virtual shadowings? And what that might look like is bringing in a variety of presenters from a variety of specialties, folks who represent a lot of different lived experiences and areas in the country. Do they make it interactive? Are they ensuring that there are case studies that individuals that are joining are able to connect with the presenter, ask questions, get those questions answered answered in real time. How long is that virtual shadowing? Is it 20 minutes? Hey, this is a day in the life and it's done. Is it an hour and a half, which tends to be what we do, which is a bit more involved and really asks for the attendee or the pre-PA to participate and to make a commitment to that time. I think those are some of the ways that I would discern potentially a virtual shadowing experience that would be a higher quality one. Those were probably the ones that come to mind first.
And let me ask this a little bit. How would you go about finding someone to serve in this capacity to allow students to come in?
Yes, of course. For the National Society of Black PAs, we use kind of our networks. We will ask our folks who work in our mentorship program, hey, are you interested? You're in a specialty that we haven't highlighted yet. Would you like to do a virtual shadowing session? And these are folks that are already pretty familiar with the work that we do. And so they come into the space acknowledging that and ready to help have a broader impact. But we also, for us and for advisors even, if you are reaching out to folks who are in the community, who are working with patients, who have been working with patients for several years and really have a good handle on how they got to where they are, what a day in the life looks like, and they feel compelled to give back in this way, any of those individuals would be fantastic. We try to diversify both the specialties that are being represented, where in the country folks might be residing and where they might be practicing. Patient, is it outpatient? I think those are all good things to consider when you're pulling folks for this type of work. And I would also offer that just acknowledging like they're going out of their way to do this work for you. Usually
Right.
it's no money. You find a very niche group of individuals who are really willing to do that work. And we are very appreciative of the folks that do that for us.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It just comes to mind, open your mouth and ask who it is absolutely. Again, as we're continuing the conversation, understanding some folks and groups are more familiar with this than others. There's still some things that people might not understand about how virtual shadowing works. Can you tell us some things that folks who are listening today, again, pre-PA students, advisors, faculty, staff, what are some things that they might not realize about virtual shadowing that you encounter on a regular basis? And it could be the good, the bad, all that you've learned over the years.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you for asking it. We have found folks who are a little skeptical, probably is the best term to use around virtual shadowing and questioning whether or not it is enough exposure for someone who might be considering the PA profession or is really pursuing the PA profession to get a good handle on what a PA does in their day-to-day life or what their journey looked like. And I would offer that if that is you and you are listening, let's acknowledge some of the realities about post-COVID shadowing. Even pre-COVID, it was challenging for folks to get physically into a hospital, a clinic setting to be able to shadow a PA, especially if they did not have any connection points in that space. You don't have a family member working there, or you don't have a friend who works there who can put in a good word for you. Those cold calls were already challenging.
Yeah.
And then post-COVID, with the additional, everyone needs to be screened for good reason, right? Thinking about vectors of passing around viruses and things, but it became just a ton more barriers for folks who are trying to enter that space to get those shadowing hours. So post-COVID, we have seen that virtual shadowing has become more popular because folks are able to actually engage from wherever they are, break down some of those barriers, and be able to shadow a PA who represents their lived experience or identity that lives in Washington State or lives in Florida. They reside in Ohio. And so it really opens them up for experiences that they might not be able to have within their local region or space. And so I would consider that when we're thinking about some of the skeptical things, like they're not there, they don't realize how you need to professionally dress or show up or engage. But there is etiquette related to online interaction. There is etiquette related to how you're asking or framing questions to speakers, even in this space. And so I think from that side of things, I would just encourage folks to have an open mind, especially as we are considering the breakdown in demographics of folks that are actually being accepted into PA programs and the fact that there is a barrier associated with requiring shadowing, but not having a way to make that available for all of the students or applicants that want to apply to your program. That's the skeptical one.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. And I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. When you think about your years of either facilitating this, hearing the good stories, listening to students' experiences, does anything stand out or any one experience from either a preceptor or student that they've shared that just really solidified that, yes, this is where we need to be. This is what we're doing the right thing?
I don't know if I have one specific example for you, but I will say that having pre-PA students and current PA students email or message and say, oh my gosh, I have so many questions about this specialty. I didn't think I could have that specialty. This is amazing. Do you think that they would precept me if I got into PA school? And those just the sparks of knowledge that, oh, I can visualize myself in that role, in specialty is really amazing to witness, and to witness that growth of possibility, I think, is the reason why we continue to do it outside of some of the other things we've already talked about.
Yeah, no, just the excitement and the thought that I can do that is enough. Yeah, no, absolutely. Let's take a quick break for a word from this month's episode supporter, the University of St. Francis, and its online Doctor of Medical Science degree. Now is the time to take your healthcare career to the next level. Physician assistants are encouraged to enroll now in the University of St. Francis online Doctor of Medical Science program. In just 12 months, you can expand your knowledge and skills to open your career opportunities like never before. St. Francis offers a high-quality and personalized health science experience and even dual MBA and MHA degree options. If you're ready to level up your career, you belong at St. Francis. Visit sf.edu/apply to learn more. You started talking about this a little bit. We had this thing called COVID that happened, and as much as we try to put it behind us, we are still dealing with the effects of it. And some of it is not all bad. We have shifted more virtual, and people have become more understanding and more accepting in some ways in the virtual space. But can you talk about or expand a little bit on some of those challenges to shadowing over the past several years as relates to COVID? And again, just maybe talk a little bit more about how this has played into any of that.
Yeah, of course. So the NSBPA came into existence right around when COVID was at its peak. And so for us as a small organization, we really pivoted to try to support our members in whatever way we could. And from a lot of folks, we kept hearing, do you have shadowing experiences? Who can I shadow in my region? And so that's really where our virtual shadowing series was developed or born from. And I think, if I'm being honest, I think that this is probably the space where shadowing is going to have to go to be able to actually level out the playing field in some ways for folks. Because as we consider some of the structural inequities that exist already in education, in healthcare, in where you are born, in your zip code, and over terms of health experiences, if we are able to expand virtual shadowing, make it more accepted across different groups and specifically with PA programs, and try to partner with them and make it the high quality experiences that they are looking for, I do really think that we could potentially have removed that barrier for students. Because right now, most of the emails that I get outside of our mentorship program and looking for mentoring are emails asking for shadowing needs or experiences, and they are doing the work. These are like pre-PA students who are very motivated. They are emailing the people in their hometowns. They are asking for folks within the NSBPA realm or the Physician Assistants of Color realm or African Heritage PA Caucus. They are using the resources that exist and still are not coming up with enough opportunities to fulfill the numbers or the amount of hours needed to actually apply to PA programs that they're really interested in. And I think that's doing a disservice. And so I think post-COVID, this shift has been innovative, if nothing else. And I do think that there should be potentially a little bit more space and time to develop out whatever type of process different PA programs are really looking for. Because if we're being honest, maybe we just don't want that many PA students applying, like applicants applying, is what I hear when people are like, we only want in-person shadowing. Okay, so telling me that you are willingly eliminating a group of individuals who are unable to do that for reasons outside of their own determination and result. And for me, that is problematic. And that is my personal belief, not of the University of Pittsburgh, for that out there.
Yeah, but we'll put it out there. Understand. Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that I appreciate about, again, the work that's already been done and even this opportunity here is that there is a model out there for others to follow as we look to expand virtual shadowing, so that, again, it comes out of some of the more specific associations or organizations that are taking the lead in this, that any institution or group or whatever has the ability to really follow there.
Yeah, and email us, partner with us. Like, we don't intend to be gatekeepers, right? That has never been the model or the goal for the NSBPA. And so if there are programs who are hearing this, or work folks that are faculty or staff in those programs, and they're saying, we don't have the people to do this type of work, email us. Let us know what you're looking for. What are the components of virtual shadowing that would potentially be an easier sell for you when you're thinking about this? And how do we try to work within that to keep these things free for our pre-PA students, but also just make sure it's accessible and make sure it opens doors that they really want to pursue, because these programs are the ones they really want to pursue.
No, absolutely. No, I appreciate that. So I'm going to shift a little bit and want you to think through a little bit. And this is a big question. Can you describe for us the PA pathway right now from your perspective? And the reason I think it's such a big question is, one, you're doing something very groundbreaking already here. So that impacts a PA pathway. There's so many other opportunities out there. How would you describe that from your experience or perspective now?
Yeah. So the PA pathway, it's a big one. So I do think that there are a couple components that we've been, not just we, but like lots of individuals, lots of organizations doing this work have been focused on. The first part being introducing folks to the PA profession so they know it is a profession that is ready and willing to accept them with open arms. And so I think that is the beginning component of the PA pathway. And then moving into kind of the readiness, the preparedness component. And that is where some of the mentorship programs that have come about, we think about the EDGE PA program that's really working with pre-PA students who identify as male. We think about the work that Gina Saltzman is doing in Chicago with empaths and helping with mentoring and shadowing, the NSBPA's mentorship program, the Physician Assistants of Color program, African Heritage PA Caucus, and many other groups that are really focusing on that mentorship component, which that comes in a lot of different flavors, styles, but that's really important for folks to really understand what the CASPA application process looks like, what they need to have done before they even think about the CASPA application process, and really aligning their steps so that they don't hit those same stumbling blocks that some of us may have experienced when we were going through that process. And thinking about personal statement review, thinking about who are going to write your letters of recommendation, and then thinking about your supplementals. How are we going to pay for those things? Do we qualify for the CASPA fee waivers? Thinking about some of those things that may not be initially obvious to folks who are maybe approaching this and have never encountered a PA before, right? And are just really interested in the profession and have gone on that throughout their process. And then moving from that part of the process into the application cycle, mock interviews, making sure that your application is in on time. Some of those things are really challenging for folks because I've had so many conversations, this is a slight derailment, but I've had so many conversations with people, pre-PA students specifically, who are like, I want to apply this year. And they do not have the patient care experiences, or they need to have a couple more classes done. There's an idea or an understanding that, PA programs don't need all of the prerequisites initially. They'll just accept what I have. And that is false. We know that most programs will say on their website very clearly, you can have one outstanding prerequisite, whatever that is. And so sometimes it's really hard. And I feel like I'm crushing dreams when I'm just like, let's think about the timing, because that is so vastly important when we're thinking about the PA pathway and the ways in which students are able to do it successfully without quite as many journeys off that pathway before they get to the point that they want to. And the journey is the goal, right? That is a really large part of becoming a PA. And so that's not to discredit any of those twists and turns, because it does make us better humans and also just adds a lot more flavor into the overall journey that we have. But after all of that, applications, they start their interview process. They then have to figure out which program they want to attend. And those are conversations about what city is it? What are the faculty like? What is the mission of that program? Which, if you've been harassed by me, you know that is something we should have talked about many months before you arrived. But we revisit that if you're between two programs and thinking about the ways in which what matters the most to you. Does it matter that you're in a city that has restaurants that have your type of food, right? Family style cookie from your ethnicity, and maybe that's really important to you, or having a hairstylist near you that definitely knows how to do your hair, right? And so thinking about the things that make up not just the PA program, but also the city that folks are moving to live in for 2 years or 3 years, because that's really important to mental well-being, physical well-being. How far are you from your family? Do you have anyone in that space? Who are you going to rely on when things are really hard and you don't want to talk about PA school with your PA school friends and colleagues?
Right.
How do you develop that? So I think those are the conversations that happen. Folks will select a program. As far as paying for programs, that's another part that I think a lot of us are probably fielding those questions on a pretty regular basis. It's expensive. It's very expensive. There are less graduate scholarships out there. They exist, but there aren't a ton of them. I always think of like the National Health Service Corps Scholarship, and I think of some of the ways that some of the service, Army, Navy, Marines, et cetera, and public service do have scholarships associated with service contracts. And so for the right student, that might be a really great experience, but that's a challenge. And so thinking about that is the next step for folks. And if you've been in our mentorship program, we try to encourage folks to talk about that really early too, because even if you get in, right, we really need to make sure that you have some awareness of the associated cost and how you're going to do that so it's not so stressful when you begin. And then they start, and then they're PA students, and there's a whole other host of things to navigate, like imposter syndrome, the amount of work and the rapidity of the material that you're expected to learn. And putting on my educator hat, that is where kind of choosing the right PA program and making sure they have the resources to support students coming from whatever background and whatever knowledge base is really vitally important, because you're paying a lot of money for that education. And so the tutoring that you need, the resources, those things really need to exist in that program before you take a step in that door. And that can be part of the conversation about which programs you need to choose, knowing your learning style, et cetera. I told you I'd go off the rails and just tell you everything. So
No, this is so incredible because I know that some points you just brought up are things that oftentimes pre-PA students omit. I think the mindset sometimes is, oh, it's just a couple years, I can push through. And yes, we can push through, but you're going to need a lot of resources. You need some support. You need a good plate of food sometime. You need all those things to help you push through. And all of that is just as important as the other piece. And so I think it's just very important for folks to hear from experienced professionals that is important. And it's okay to be focused on that. A lot of times I think we try to minimize the human side of who we are, and we're focusing on getting through the PA side, the academic side, and you got to be a human that whole time too and take care of yourself. No, thank you so much for bringing that out.
I tell my students that all the time. I want you to be a whole human at the end of this experience. And so what that looks like is you being honest and transparent with me, and I'm going to be honest and transparent with you, right? I can't change it and make it easier. But if you tell me what you are struggling in, and we can actually bring you the resources or the building blocks, those resources possible for you, that is perfect. Let's do that together so that you get out on the other side and recognize the person in the mirror. And not as a PA student and then a PA student graduate or a PAC, but like a whole human. That's just so valuable. I agree.
No, absolutely. And Kathryn, as we wrap up, you've already given so many good nuggets. But if you could leave our audience with a few words of advice, what would that be?
Use the resources that are out there. There are people that are willing to come alongside you and support you. There are spaces where you will be able to find one-on-one tutoring, group tutoring, shadowing, virtual shadowing. Make sure you ask. Make sure you are putting yourself out there. And I would just offer that there's a place for you in the PA profession, even if it seems really far from right now. That journey that you're on is worthwhile. It is important. You are valuable and important and will make a fantastic PAC at whatever point you get there. We are just excited to have you join us on this side of things. And there are many of us who are throwing the ladder back down, trying to make sure that you can get here with a little less pain, a little less of the barriers and the stress. There are just a lot of us waiting with open arms to help you at any point on this process. So make sure you reach out.
There's space for you in the PA profession. Love it. Absolutely phenomenal for folks to always own that and hold true to that through this journey that you've talked about. This is going to have some twists and turns and maybe a little bit longer than others, but there's still space for you in the profession. Kathryn, thank you so much. And again, I knew we would have a good conversation. Could not imagine it'd be this good. And I wrote down things and took mental notes, and there's probably 10 other podcasts we could do. And so maybe we'll call you back. Again, thank you so much for your time, your knowledge, wisdom with everyone. And as always, just thankful and grateful for who you are and to work with you.
Thank you so much. Ditto. Right back at you, and call me anytime.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Emma.
I appreciate Kathryn for joining us, and thanks to everyone for listening to this episode of the PA Path. For more information about the shadowing experiences in this episode, visit the NSBPA website at nsbpa.org. We thank the University of St. Francis and its online Doctor of Medical Science degree for supporting this podcast. Visit sf.edu/apply to learn more. Join us each month for conversations with leaders in our profession, both nationally and worldwide.